everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be looking at not Bitcoin. Actually, we're going to be looking at Ethereum, but we'll start off with Bitcoin just to kind of give a an update. I think considering the circumstances, we'll always be looking at Bitcoin at this point, regardless what kind of video that I'm making. Simply because this moment in time, I think is fairly integral to the bull market, and to Bitcoin and to the altcoin market. If you like this video and the other videos that I make on this channel, be sure to hit the like button down below and also consider subscribing. So Bitcoin, still above the 20-week moving average. We bounced to it. We wicked past it, but we're staying above it. If we look at the hourly, um, and you see this white line here, this is actually the 20-week moving average. Um, in hourly format. So to get this, you would type in 3,360 hours to get the 20-week moving average. And as you can see, we came down, we bounced, and now we're trending back up ever so slightly. So things are looking good as of right now with Bitcoin, in my opinion. Um, Obviously, things can change real quick. Red candles can come real quick, or green candles can come just as quick. Having said that, the altcoin market is, uh, one of the signs that I see that things are good. Things are playing out in a favorable way for speculators and for us. The way we look at that is, well, even though Bitcoin is at the 20-week moving average, which should be a sign of fear, of uncertainty. The big if on Bitcoin breaking the 20-week moving average, I think, has a profound effect on the market. Despite all that, Bitcoin dominance is still down about 0.91 percentage points for today, bringing it down to 41.41% dominance. And we are way past now 43.12% that was yesterday that we just blew by. But at the same time, we mentioned that this wasn't necessarily a significant support line. Our target is more so these bottom two here at 39.81 and the one below that, which is at 36.61. These are the two peaks from the past altcoin cycle, right? This is January 2018, so this is the initial one when Bitcoin made its peak in 2017. Altcoins went crazy, came back down this level, came back up, and then a second rally in April of 2018 brought us here. So here we are dropping like a rock towards this level of 39.81, and so this is the moment. Now, something to keep in mind though, this is a percentage basis. However, what assets make up this percentage is profoundly different than it was 4 years ago, right? There was no Polkadot, there was no Uniswap, there none of these uh, newer cryptocurrencies that now have very high valuations that are now part of the conversation, including the other ones from last year. So there are more assets in the space now, I think, than there were 4 years ago, and therefore the potential of more dollars flowing into there is higher. And so technically there is a chance that we um, can't necessarily compare these two, right? Because there's more altcoins in the space now, there's more money flowing through the space now, and therefore the dominance might be going even lower. But that is entirely speculation. I'm in the camp that these two support regions for Bitcoin dominance will have some kind of effect with the altcoin market and Bitcoin now, and I feel like they do have relevance. And even though there are more altcoins in the space, well, Bitcoin's now over $1 trillion asset, and because and the total crypto market cap is 2.27 trillion. So there's more dollars in Bitcoin just as much as there's more dollars in altcoins, and therefore I think it kind of evens itself out, keeping the dominance as relevant, and we can use past data from the dominance chart to further project where we can see kind of support um, in relation to the general altcoin market. But if this is any indication, this week we're down 4 percentage points on on the chart. And so I think it goes to show that altcoins are still in the green. They're still in the good, despite the shakiness of Bitcoin, which I think is a very important. And one of those who are having a great day is, or a good day more or less, is Ethereum. Ethereum is up 6.5% against Bitcoin. Okay, we've been holding this level for 3 days. Uh, Yesterday being an interesting one where we dropped 2.62%. Um, and the day before where we were still up 4% on the day despite the moves of Bitcoin. And so we are holding strong. The trend seems to be still in our favor, right? Um, Following a trend like that. Obviously, this trend's not going to last forever, but it really does seem to be coming into the vertical. We're closing in at 0.08 Bitcoin, which has not been reached since 3 years ago in 2018. So this is pretty exciting, and we'll see what happens. I'll be honest. This is not kind of the outcome that I expected. I was a little bit more bearish on the idea of altcoins. But however, as I always mention, momentum is a hell of a thing, and can even bring valuations higher despite markets what you might believe in your theory. Um, and this is definitely what's happening now on the more bullish, potentially bullish scenario of a bullish outcome of Bitcoin hitting the 20-week moving average. This is actually on the good side, and it's not something that I'm angry about. In fact, I quite welcome it. I was maybe a little too cautious, but I don't think you can be too cautious in this market anyway. So we are closing in at 0.08. We'll see how we do there, because this is going to be a potential resistance line that we see for Ethereum. If Bitcoin doesn't break below the 20-week moving average this week, so we have 2.5 days left on the weekly candle. The idea is that we need to close above the 20-week moving average consistently. We cannot have a close below the 20-week. And if we're able to do that, then Ethereum can continue onwards. I would make the argument though that when Bitcoin does bounce, Ether Bitcoin ratio will have a harder time keeping up, in my opinion. But I mean, regardless, I think that's a conversation for later. The main goal here is for Bitcoin to stay above the 20-week and for Ethereum to keep moving. As long as Ethereum keeps moving, we should be fine. Um, Another thing to take into consideration is the relative strength index for Ether Bitcoin. We are currently at 83.86. We see a relative RSI top at about 87.08. Okay, these line up with the June move, the March 2017 move, and the 2016 moves. We seem to have an RSI peak. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's the market cycle peak. As we can see here in March of 2017, we peaked to about 0.05 Bitcoin, but at the end of the day, the real peak was 0.13, 0.15, right? So doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a market cycle top coming in at 88.07 on the RSI. It simply means that we might see some kind of resistance and a pullback of sorts. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I think these things are. It's quite interesting that everything kind of lines up like this, right? We see Ether Bitcoin creeping up to the RSI top. We also see Bitcoin on the weekly creep down. Okay, so not creeping up, but creeping down on a historical RSI level, right? We've already made contact, in my opinion, but or it looks like we have 56.54. Okay, not yet, but it seems to be going there. As long if Bitcoin continues on the 20-week, riding the 20-week, will be there in no time. But it's interesting that at the same time Ether Bitcoin's reaching its own RSI ceiling, we see Bitcoin coming down on the weekly from a historical RSI support level, right? So I think, and with Bitcoin dominance creeping down to the notable levels that we mentioned at 39 and 30 36, it's very near. I mean, the 39 is what, like less than 2 percentage points away from there. So everything is kind of aligning pretty nicely. Um, but I would put that as a coincidence. The important part is to note that these levels do exist and is something that we should keep in the back of our mind, and might become more relevant in the near future. But that's pretty much it for today, you guys. Ethereum's still looking great. I still hold a majority stake in my Ethereum. However, it is getting smaller. I did throw a stop the other day and sold at about 7.073 Bitcoin. And it moved back into Bitcoin at the time. I got stopped out, but what can you do? But I think I still hold a majority of my Ethereum still if I add up everything. But regardless, it is getting smaller naturally because we are moving up. When we reach the upper bounds of the Ether Bitcoin chart, it's probably one of the best times to sell your Ethereum back into your Bitcoin, and that's what I'm taking advantage of. You don't have to, um, but but I recommend, regardless if you're selling it back to Bitcoin, stablecoins, or whatever, to take a look at your portfolio and see how high up you are, and to consider locking in some of those profits. But that's all for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.